You still hear me right? Even with your stream on in the background, you can hear me all right?
Done. Well, hello, and welcome to the Nighthawk Racing hashtag First Championship. I'm Sarah Hawkins, also known as Sarah Hawkey, and I will be your host this evening and one of your commentators for this GT7 base championship. We are back for season 2. We are ready, and I've got to say, I'm very excited to get the racing started tonight. I'm joined again by motorsport enthusiast, racer, and co-commentator Kirk. It's a pleasure to have you by my side again, Kirk.
Hello, I'm back once again. As always, it's great to be welcomed back with open arms by the Nighthawky crew.
Yes, and like I said, we are back and better than ever for season 2 of the Nighthawk Racing First Championship. We have an 8-event championship spanning over 16 race sessions, with 8 weeks worth of racing, lots of different car manufacturers that are racing tonight, potentially over 27 drivers for this season, and some great tracks on the calendar. The format tonight is similar to race 1 of the previous season. Tonight there'll be a pre-lobby qualifying held, which is currently being held right now as we speak, to determine which lobbies the drivers will be racing in. After that, we then have 3 official time sessions with qualifying up first, followed by our first racing session with a reverse grid sprint race. We will then be treated to a 38-lap feature race, all at the Brazilian home of racing, Interlagos, which is loved by many. Okay, Kirk, could you give me an overview of the event session format and point scale, please?
Absolutely, Sarah. So, being the first round is season 2 tonight. As we see on screen, we have a lobby qualifying starting first. That is we have 20 drivers so far for this event tonight. So to determine our splits, this is what we're waiting for to finish right now. Lobby qualifying. So we're going to split it into our top 10 fastest drivers over the two lobbies. Will be our first split, and then the bottom 10 will be our second split. For this, it is, as you see on screen, no fuel, well, no tyre wear and 50 litres of fuel to start off with. And this will be just to decide our splits tonight. After that, at about 8:45, so we're ready to start soon, hopefully, we'll start in our actual qualifying for both splits tonight. Me and Sarah will just be focusing on the top split, but I am being confirmed that if you are in second split, the highlights will be uploaded onto the Nighthawk YouTube channel. So going into qualifying, it will be a 10-minute qualifying session. The tyres you set your fastest lap on will be the tyres you start on for the feature race tonight, unless we have a wet qualifying session, which will be determined by the moisture bar being over a third full. after the qualifying tonight, we'll have a bit of have a few minute break in between sessions, and then we'll go into our sprint race, which will be a 15-minute timed race. It will be reverse grid from the qualifying. Well, that is just for tonight. Starting from round two onwards, it will be in reverse championship order. The sprint race will have 5 times tyre wear. So we could see people who choose to start on the soft tyres potentially cutting it quite fine for tyre wear towards the end of the race. It is an open tyre choice as aforementioned. So do you start on the softs for the sprint race and try and eke out a gap before the medium runners better tyre life can equal out the odds and help maybe start catching them up? Yeah, we'll have to find out in the sprint race. Then, given about a 10 or so minute rest between the sprint race and the feature race, we'll go on to our main event of the feature race. It will be a 38 lap race from a grid start. So expect to see a lot of close side by side battles going in towards turn one, turn two, and turn three. They run down the Raposta in. Um, it is a mandatory. We have a mandatory tyre rule for the feature race where you have to use 2 different compounds if it's a dry race. Um, Whether it be soft medium, soft hard, medium hard. Um, as long as you use 2 different sets of compounds in a dry race, that's you have satisfied that rule. The only exemption to this rule is if the in-game moisture bar goes over a third full, to which we'll declare a wet race. Therefore, it will be open tyre choice for the duration of the race. You have to start on the same compound of tyre as you qualified on. So, say if you you set your fastest lap in qualifying on the soft, you'd have to start on the soft tyre, and vice versa. If your fastest lap was set on the medium or the hard tyre, you'd have to start the feature race on that tyre. Then for the point system, there is points up for grabs in every session tonight, whether it be qualifying, a sprint race, or the feature race. I believe in qualifying, the top 3 fastest times all are guaranteed points, with pole being 3 points, second place being rewarded 2 points, and third place being 1 point. As we see in the sprint race, we have a bonus point for the fastest lap in the sprint race, and then points are in descending order from first place getting 20 points, second getting 17, third getting 15, and as it runs down, even if you don't have the most fortunate race, even at the bottom of the pack, you'll still receive 2 points today. And then for the feature race, you get 2 bonus points for fastest lap. And it'll be double points from the sprint race. So 40 for a win, 36 for second, 33 for third, which I just realised isn't quite double, but it's pretty close to double points. And then even again, if you do have a poor feature race and you find yourself languishing towards the back of the pack, there are still plenty of points up for grabs. With even finishing down towards, you get a minimum of 4 points tonight, Sarah.
Yeah, beautifully explained, Kirk. Points across the board. It's like we said, points makes prizes. There's no point rage quitting because those points will then be halved or they'll be null. But yeah, points up for grabs for all the positions. Obviously, this is the points for Lobby 1. The points for Lobby 2 are slightly different, but they will be covered in the commentary for Lobby 2, which will be held afterwards and will be uploaded to the Nighthawk Racing YouTube, as Kirk said earlier. But yeah, it's worth sticking it out, getting some points from the boards. It's the opener, so all these points up for grabs could help later on in the season, for those championship battles. Like we saw last season, we did have a championship battle, but for other positions. Our main man Swizzy did run away with the championship on that last race, with Kai not being able to race. But yeah, we are currently just waiting for the drivers to be allocated a certain lobby. But while we do that, I'll just, so many of the drivers here, me and Kirk know very well and have raced against have enjoyed many a great moment with, both on and off track. We have some returning drivers from Season 1, but we also have some new faces joining us for Season 2 of the Nighthawk Racing Championship, who we will have the pleasure of introducing them all throughout the season. And it's quickly worth stating that more than 3/4 of our grid do independently stream on Twitch and YouTube, etc. So links to their channels will be available in the Nighthawk Racing YouTube comment section and in our Discord. But yeah, looks like we have an amazing grid, which will be forming shortly. But I just wanted to say a massive thank you to everyone that's racing tonight. This wouldn't be possible without you. But yes, but while we wait, I have just been informed that the lobby 1 and 2 driver allocation has been sorted out. So me and Kirk will jump in the lobbies just in a second. But while we do that, we've got a treat this season, and that treat is seeing Swizzy do a hot lap around Interlagos. So I'm going to leave you with the hot lap. Enjoy, and I'll see you on the other side. Well, what a pleasure that was. I was watching myself. I was thinking, I don't know how I would ever set a time like that around here. But thank you, Swizzy, for showing us how it's done, for giving us a hot lap of Interlagos. I'm sure a lot of the drivers found it helpful and enjoyed the watch. Hopefully you guys watching as well did enjoy that hot lap by Swizzy, our Season 1 champion. And as you can see on screen at the moment, Swizzy did get a Grand Slam. He won quite a few. He was a frequent podium and winner of last season. So yeah, Kirk, what did you think of Swizzy's performance from Season 1?
I mean, I'm sure if you watch any of the VODs from last season, I could not sing Swizzy's praise enough. Swizzy, for lack of a better word, what an absolute alien at this game, you know. Maybe we did see a few close battles between him and Kai throughout the season. I'm hoping for it to be closer this season, but I'm still hoping for Swizzy to show everyone how it's done and what practice. Well, with practice, how good you could get at a game. Yeah, as I don't need to sum up anything for Swizzy, as you can see on the screen. The amount was that 4 poles, fastest lap, lots of fastest laps, a grand slam in there, which is very impressive when you think about um, being out in front with Katie Kai pressing him. Means he didn't have a pit stop gap on people, so we see people in the mid pack often nicking the fastest lap point. So to be able to get at least one grand slam just shows you how good Swizzy must be. Um, I think this season, I think it'll be much the same this season from Swizzy. I know we got so a lot of faster, again, got some more faster drivers this year, such as Evo. I think we saw once last year, possibly. Obviously, we've seen Deadline towards the back end of last season being able to stick it up towards the front of the pack. Obviously, we got the likes of Midnight, Pedro. Obviously, we got Katie Kai, LBR Lewis. I think we're in for an interesting season, but I still want to see Swizzy win, Sarah.
Can he hold on to that championship? That will be a tall order with the caliber of drivers that have recently been on board for us. As Kirk just said, there's a lot of new faces, a lot of fast drivers that I think we've all had experience of racing, or see kind of just, racing off into the distance. Especially for me, I see these names and I know they're fast, so it's a pleasure to have them on the grid. But yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself, Kirk. With Swizzy, he was the only driver to get that Grand Slam, and I think it was the last race at Red Bull that he got that Grand Slam. But as you can see by his stats, loads of fast laps. Can he do the same for season 2? Hopefully. In a different car this season. Swizzy has picked the Lexus RCF for this season, so a slightly different car to kind of get to grips on, but I'm sure he'll be able to do it. But we'll talk about Kai. They're just getting ready to start qualifying, so we will pan over to that in just a second. But yes, KD the Kai coming in second for season 1, and as you can see by his stats as well, a few pole positions, a few fastest laps, a frequent podium position sitter in both the sprint and the feature race, and at some points he did beat Swizzy. Both were in the GTR. KD the Kai bringing a fight to Swizzy. I believe KD the Kai has also chosen to stuck with the GTR for this season, a car that he feels comfortable in for sure. But can he get closer to Swizzy this time and potentially overthrow our champion? What do you think, Kirk? Do you reckon Kai returning in that GTR? What should we expect from him?
I think if we saw a lot of rounds last season where maybe Kai chose the better strategy, but a little lapse in concentration, a little half spin, a little half-second penalty here and there, really cost him during the longer format races. I think, well, I feel like going into this season, if Katie Kai can get on top of what we saw last season, as I said, with this occasional mistake, um, half spin, see penalty here and there. I feel like if he can get on top of that for this season, I think I don't think he has the pure pace on paper to be able to challenge Swizzy, but with a smart strategy call, a clean, consistent race, I feel like at least in some rounds that Kai can challenge Swizzy, Sarah.
Yeah, I believe so too. But will the new faces be able to keep up with these guys and bring a fight to them? I hope so. But just before we pan to the qualifying, we've got to talk about Mac as well, coming home in that 3rd place in the championship. He's also chosen to stick with the Mercedes AMG, a car that I think he drove really well in season 1, and hopefully again some good performances from Mac. As you can see, again, frequent podium position sitter in both the sprint and the feature race. Can he do the same for season 2? Hopefully. But yeah, Kirk, what do you think? Do you think Mac returning in that AMG? Can he get a few more sprint and feature race podiums, if not a win?
I think he should be able to get on the podium. Quite a few. Well, if we're going off based on season 1, I think he definitely deserved to be on a podium finish on a lot more of those races. But it's a similar situation to what we saw with Kai. As in, he'll be making the odd mistake, especially in the sprint race. I saw a few times last season where he would be a bit too aggressive for an overtake, or get on the front a bit too aggressively and spin out. I feel like for this season, if Mac can deal with the traffic better in the sprint race, and maybe not get held up as much in the especially in the early laps at the sprint race, I feel like Manley could definitely be up there, and get on top of his strategy as well. We saw quite a few times last season. Well, definitely 2 times I can remember off the top of my head where he'd switched to the hard tire, which just did not suit him or the car at all. And obviously, I would see him tumble down the order, not being able to make inroads on the people in front of him. But I feel like this season, if he can, again, same with Kai, if he can iron out the mistakes, get on top of the strategy, maybe do a bit more practice beforehand if he hasn't with the strategy. I feel there's no reason why he couldn't this season be challenging towards the front once he gets on top of all the problems he had last season, Sarah.
Yeah, hopefully. But we will now pan over to qualifying. As you can see, all drivers have set a lap. They're going for their second flying lap. But as we watch Swizzy go around, it looks like we have an amazing grid for Lobby 1 tonight. And just reiterating a massive thank you to everyone. It's a pleasure to have all you guys in the lobby racing, and I hope you have fun, but good luck. But as I previously said, tonight the grid does look really strong, especially these drivers in Lobby 1. To me, it looks like we'll see battles throughout the field too, with lots of equally talented drivers. Kirk, what are your thoughts on the upcoming event, and who do you expect to be strong around here?
As we see, Swizzy taking a dominant pole right now, being 6/10 player of a second, is that from Malcolm. I'm thinking tonight, especially in that mid pack, I'm expecting a tight and close knit battle throughout the entire feature race and sprint race. To be fair, as we see, a lot of drivers are only split by a couple of tenths of a second or less so than that. So I'm expecting to see lots of close tight battling. Expecting to see the odd, possibly slightly naughty dive bomb in the second sector. But I'm expecting lots of close, clean, and tight racing, Sarah.
Yeah, I'm excited. Me and Kirk both saying beforehand how excited we are for this race. Yeah, Swizzy taking a new challenge of that Lexus. I don't know if it's a challenge to him or not, because he's doing amazing so far with that time, a 1:30.3. He's currently half a second ahead of Handy Point. But while we watch Handy Point go round, we'll pan to him. Just going to give you some track facts about Interlagos as we are racing here tonight. So Interlagos is a 4.3 kilometre or 2.6 mile long circuit located in the city of Sao Paulo in Brazil, if you didn't already know. It was inaugurated on the 12th of May 1940, and surprisingly the land on which the circuit is located was originally bought in 1926 by property developers who wanted to build housing on it. Following difficulties, partly due to the 1929 stock market crash, it was decided to build a racing circuit instead. I think we're all grateful for that. Construction started in 1938. The traditional name of the circuit in Portuguese means between lakes, and it comes from its location on the neighbourhood of Interlagos, a region between two large artificial lakes. Interlagos is something of a throwback circuit, built in the 1940s and updated just enough over the years to satisfy the demands of Formula One without destroying its essential character. One of the main characteristics of Interlagos is that it was not built on flat terrain, but follows the ups and downs of hilly grounds, which makes it a lot harder to drive and demands more power from the car's engine. The races therefore can be tough on the car and physically demanding on the drivers, especially since the circuit runs counterclockwise. Today, the track boasts a full calendar of events at national level, as well as F1. For example, the Stock Car Brazil and Copa Truck are seasonal highlights on four wheels, with Superbike Brazil providing the best of the two-wheel action. So, Kirk, what are your thoughts on this pretty cool track?
Yeah. Interlagos is a track well known all around the world. Whether it be the famous CNRS with that term 1, 2, and 3 combination, the run down the Raposta in towards turn 4 at the end of the first sector, which leads you into a fast, well, maybe not fast, but definitely a very flowing medium speed second sector, where you could possibly catch your opponent napping and send a cheeky look down the inside in one of the corners. Which leads you on, which after the middle sector, you get the most crucial part of the lap, I find, the final true corner, which will lead you all the way up the hill and to the start finish line. This is a very important corner, as if you get a poor exit, it can ruin your qualifying lap. It could put you under a lot of pressure from the car behind heading into turn 1. And if you get, especially as we see in qualifying right now, a poor exit can potentially even ruin the following lap. I should be going over the start finish line at a slower speed going into turn 1, Sarah.
Yeah, like you say, Kirk, it's crucial to get the lap right here to get a good qualifying time. You can run wide on some of those apexes, but some of them will bite you back, especially the curbs around here. I've got to say I've fallen foul to riding on the curbs and getting yeeted into the opposite direction. But we won't go into that. But yeah, all drivers currently setting some really good and really fast lap times. Currently, we're on the final lap now as we speak. We've got our man Swizzy in P1, and the gap between him and Callum just behind, it's not a lot. But Kirk, if you want to run me down, who have you been keeping your eye on, and who do you want to mention?
I think we've got to mention Malcolm. Already a new face for this season, and already putting it in between the big wigs of last season, Swizzy, Kai, and McManley. He's same tyre as the people around him on the soft tyre. And it'd be interesting to see if he can stick with Swizzy during the race. But I'm certainly looking forward to this new face. As we see him finishing his lap, setting a 31.2 and staying second on his final lap. It's interesting to see Swizzy as well. I know Swizzy was up up by a few tenths in the first sector. I'm not sure what it's like in the second sector, if he's improving or not. So the F2 again, really coming in quite clutch in the final lap of the race, taking P6. As we see, McManley only 2 thousandths of a second in front of it. Yeah, Sarah, I think Swizzy improving in the end. We see Dark Lord moving up to P8.
Yeah, I was just sort of flicking between all the drivers, and I've got to say, it's so close between everyone. They're like, a couple of the drivers are separated by a few tenths. A couple of the drivers are not even separated by a tenth. If that doesn't show you how kind of close these drivers are, I don't know what will. But Once the session finishes, we will then get our official grid for the sprint race of tonight, and I will let Kirk run down the grid as soon as we get it. But yeah, that was good. That was a good qualifying.
It was. Just looking at the results, we have less than 0.2 of a second separating the top four. And then we have fifth, sixth, and seventh separated by less than a tenth of a second. Well, a thousandth of a second, should I say, or 100th of a second. And then we have Dark Lord GT by himself there. Well, I say by himself, but he's less than a tenth back from Handy Pint, and then a tenth in front, or a few tenths in front of Midnight, with Louis, Deadline, and Pedro rounding out the grid today. That would mean for our sprint race tonight, it will be Pedro leading us off, followed by Deadline in second, Luis, should I say, in third, Midnight in fourth. We have Dark Lord in fifth, Handy Pint in sixth, Sophia or Etu in seventh, McManley in eighth, Evo in ninth, Katie Kai in 10th, Malcolm in 11th, and Swizzy at the back for the sprint race tonight, P12. It'd be interesting to see, Sarah, the fast runners such as Swizzy, the new face Malcolm, Katie Kai, Evo, and McManley try and fight through the pack in the sprint race, Sarah.
Yeah, I've got to say I'm really excited for tonight. We've seen Swizzy, come through the field quite a few times last season. I'm sure he'll be able to do it again tonight. But I'm intrigued to see how many positions he will be able to climb. Can he get back to that win, or will the drivers that are around him, which as you can see they are pretty fast, will they put a stop to that and kind of not block his way, but you know what I mean, put themselves in front of him and say, no, you're not getting past me today. So yeah, I'm intrigued. A lot of fast drivers here, as you can see. And yeah, will Pedro in that 911 be able to convert the sprint pole into potentially a podium or a good handful of points? We shall see. But yeah, we're just getting ready for the feature race to begin. Not the feature race, the sprint race, sorry. Got one step on my head ahead of myself there. I'm just that excited today. I'm getting the sessions wrong. I'm getting names wrong. But remember, this is the first race of the season, so good luck everybody as we watch Pedro.
I feel like the telemetry is glitched on my screen. I'm pretty sure it says we've got one of 38 laps, Sarah. I'm not sure what it says on your screen.
No, we are on lap 1 of the sprint race. You got to love GT7 with those visual glitches. But yeah, we're on lap number 1. As we see Pedro.
As we see.
Go for it, Kirk.
Yeah, we see Pedro leading us down the Retroposta. Obviously, sprint race being a rolling start, which gives Pedro plenty of space from Deadline in second, Louis in third, and we see Luke under a bit of pressure from Dark Lord and Handy Pipe in the battling for P4. We see Manly in P9. Everyone's still following single file for now. I'm sure it'll all kick off in a minute, Sarah.
Yeah, everyone kind of seeing everyone get away cleanly, which is good. I'm sure a lot of them will be biding their time, kind of learning the drivers around them, learning their lines, learning their braking points, and I think it's the way of racing. You've got to settle in on that first lap, make sure that you're feeling comfortable, you're feeling good, and then from lap 2 onwards, I think we'll see some good moves, some daring moves. But yeah, everyone getting away nice and clean, which is good to see.
Oh, Louis running wide on the final real corner and picking up a half-second penalty from earlier in the lap. That is not going to do his sprint race any favours, and it will see him drop down towards at least 6th, possibly 7th. Oh no, not 7th, but can Etu challenge Louis into turn 1? I think she'll be a bit too far back that one. But yeah, that is probably not the best start of the race for Louis, as we see Dark Lord going up the inside of Midnight ISO into the first corner, into the centre S, should I say, and taking that third
Oh,
position away
Deadline
from
picking up a
Midnight.
second penalty. That's gonna hurt because we've got Lewis, Dark Lord, just behind, closing in that gap. Everyone else are just flicking through. There's a little bit of glitching, unfortunately, but that's the way of GT7. As we see Handy Point and Midnight side by side.
Unfortunately, Sophia Etu has also picked up a second penalty towards the back of our pack, which is not going to help her sprint race at all. As she only seems to be dropping back so far, Sarah, in this race.
Yeah, a last minute kind of joiner of tonight, so it's understandable. She might not have had the practice time, and it's very easy to get penalties around here. I know, especially coming out of that first sector, I pick up a lot of penalties, and it's quite hard to stay within the white lines there. So the game's a little bit harsh in that respect, but I think the drivers have got to use the sprint race as a form of practice in a way. Obviously, there is points to be grabbed in the sprint race, but the majority of the points will be picked up in the feature race. So if drivers can kind of get into the groove of the sprint race, it will put them in some good positions for the feature race.
Yeah, some of our biggest losers so far from the sprint race so far. Obviously, we see Midnight ISO fallen 2 positions. We see, obviously, unfortunately, Sophia dropping from about P6, P7 down to P12. We've also seen Louis pick up unfortunate half-second penalty, but he's still up there in fifth. But enough about the negatives. I'm sure Pedro will be eager to have everyone keep fighting behind him, as he is now just about 2 seconds clear from Dark Lord, Sarah.
Yeah, I think Pedro will be loving this. Out in the lead in the Porsche, taking it all in, knowing that he's got some very fast drivers behind him. But he's settled into the race nicely. Hasn't picked up a penalty so far, which is good. But yeah, I think he'll be watching his mirror closely, but he'll also be looking ahead and trying to keep that win in the bag. But yeah, everyone just flicking through everybody. We've had a big shuffle. A few drivers obviously swapping places, but so far, so good.
Midnight and Evo are battling in the Center S's to run down a Retroposta. It looks like Midnight getting the better exit from turn 2 while going around turn 3, but this allows Evo to tuck up in behind going into turn 4. Is he going to look down the inside? Evo looks down the inside. Can he outbrake Midnight? Yes, he can. But has he gone deep? Is it going to allow Luke to cut back? Luke has cut back up the inside. Sarah.
What a move!
Then maybe we see Evo outbraking himself slightly into going into turn 4, and Midnight saying, "Thank you very much. I'll come back up your inside," and quite a nice cutback, might I say, Sarah.
Yeah, just watching that again. Just caught the back end of that, unfortunately. But yeah, what a move from Evo and Midnight, both, racing smartly, racing clean.
You see Evo throwing it up the inside again, and this time he makes his apex. He says, "I'll see you later, Luke," and holds that inside line and doesn't give Luke the opportunity to cut back this time, Sarah.
No, but yeah, I'm still amazed. I'm kind of speechless watching those two racing and getting around that corner in one piece. It's always good to see the two McLaren drivers fighting it out. As we see, I believe that's Mac also now picking a challenge on Midnight into that first sector, and Mac does get the place. Midnight losing
round the outside.
Round the outside, yeah. As they say, round the outside. Yeah, Midnight losing a few positions there, which I think he'll be looking to pick up in the feature race. But like I say, a lot of the drivers, this will be kind of their first session on track, so they're all settling into the race. I've got to say, I'm enjoying the action so far. Everyone's so close together. They're all within the same sector of the track, and I'm speechless, which is bad as a commentator because I should be talking, but I'm just watching everybody go around, and I'm like, these lap times, I wish I could get, within, but yeah, it's just a pleasure to watch these sort of drivers go around the track. And if this is the sort of racing that we get all season long, we're in for some treats, Kirk.
Yeah, we absolutely are. Being 5 laps in and the pack still being within 9 seconds of each other, and obviously we see a bit of a train forming behind LBR Lewis. As we see him under pressure going into turn 1 from Evo going up the inside of the BMW. Can he hold it? Quite a simple pass in the end. Held it, got the inside, parked it on the apex, and we see Louis also losing out to McManley as well, Sarah.
Yes, we do. I was just watching that from Swizzy's point of view. Swizzy getting in front of Midnight, and just in front you could see the battle between the 3 drivers. But yeah, what do you think of the race so far?
We're seeing what we expected to see, Sarah. Maybe a few people that were towards the front dropping down towards the back of the pack now, as we see Luke at the back. Oh, as we see round goes Kai. Sarah, what happened there?
I'm not quite sure. I'll see if I can catch it. Unfortunately, I'm relearning the controls again. It's been a month. Oh, just hits the grass and sends that GTR the wrong way into the corner. Oh, and does collect a few drivers. I don't think the drivers got a lot of damage from that, but obviously unfortunate to see. I think everyone got away without any damage, but yeah, it just shows you how easily it is to kind of touch the tiniest little bit of grass and the car just sends you in the opposite direction to what you want it to. But yeah, Kai's got going again, which is good, and we've still got 5 minutes of the session left, so a lot of action to go, and I'm sure he'll be making up a few positions as well.
Yeah, it looks like Deadline went a bit deep into turn 1 there, losing positions to both Evo and McManley, dropping him down to 6th, and possibly under pressure from the cars behind, as we see Swizzy going up the inside of Lewis into turn 4, which also allows Malcolm to follow Swizzy through, which is possibly could be a very interesting move if it comes to the championship later on, Sarah, if we know how close Swizzy and Malcolm were in qualifying. If you're Malcolm, would you be trying to follow every move Swizzy makes to make sure that Swizzy doesn't get away from you, Sarah?
I think he's got to. If he wants to kind of be in contention of the championship towards the latter stages, it's learn from season 1's champion. Oh, was that Midnight that just went round? Oh, unfortunately, we caught that Midnight. I'm sorry. But Midnight facing the wrong way. Just accidentally just losing it. We'll watch it again. Oh, Sophia as well. Yeah, just a little tap to the wall. Sends him round facing the wrong way.
Looks like he got his outside tyres on the grass, Sarah, and obviously once you go on that grass, you've got no grip, and it just swirled the car around on him, Sarah.
Yeah, unfortunate to see, but we've still got a feature race, and I'm sure, like I say, he'll use this as practice, what not to do in the feature race, and he'll be back fighting for those positions. But yeah, going back to Callum and to Swizzy, if I was Callum, I would be following Swizzy as much as I can.
We've got a pass for the lead, Sarah. As we see Dark Lord, Pedro possibly going a bit wide on the exit of turn 4, which allows Dark Lord to go up round his outside. See, uncharacteristic mistake there from Pedro. Going a bit wide. You don't really see too many of that. Pedro's usually quite good at keeping it clean and consistent. Do you
Yeah,
think he can stay close enough, going for the run up the hill to be able to challenge Darkhold for the lead again up into turn one, Sarah?
potentially, but I think unfortunately a lot of drivers are kind of falling foul to the tyre wear. A lot of drivers having minimal tyre wear towards the end of this race. A lot of people starting on that soft tyre, and as you can see, both Dark Lord Lewis and Pedro's tyres do look a little bit worse for wear. So I think that didn't help Pedro. He was a little bit drifty coming out of turn 4, which obviously then didn't mean he had the traction to put the speed down. But yeah, he's still quite close, and to where he qualified and to where he started on pole, a P2 or even a podium is nothing to frown about. Like we say, Pedro usually makes minimal mistakes, and it's good to see him firing the people up at the top. But yeah, I think a lot of drivers will see how long the soft tyre lasted, and will use that data for the feature race. Oh, Pedro picks up a half a second penalty. That might throw him off of the podium potentially, with how close both Evo and Handypine are to him. So maybe a costly mistake there. But these things happen towards the end of the race. Like I say, with the tyre wear being high, a lot of the drivers will have non-existent tyres at this point, so which doesn't help. And it does make the car kind of handle a little bit differently to what everyone's used to. So, yes. Louis now having a 1.3 second lead to everybody. I was just looking at that livery, and I can just about see Darth Vader on the side. I now know why he's called Dark Lord. But yeah, Pedro dropping down to 5th after that penalty, unfortunately. But still a lot of points. Nothing to be sad about.
It looks like it should be quite a safe fifth position now. Obviously, starting our final lap now is it's a 15-minute sprint race, and we've only got about 40 seconds left. Oh no, we see Handy Pint picking up a half-second penalty. How crucial is that going to be on the run up the hill? Losing second, almost certainly losing second place. As we see Evo going up the inside into the triple apex right-hander, and he gets past Handy Pint. Even before the penalty comes into play. This is played right into McManley's hand to stealing a podium position from Handy Pint. As we see, Handy Pint has got nothing left to fight with, as his front and rear right tyres are absolutely destroyed, Sarah.
They are. It's almost like they're driving with no tyres at this point. But yeah, that Porsche seems, when it's got no tyre wear, it seems very difficult to handle, and that's where the drivers in the Porsches are picking up a few penalties, unfortunately. But we are on board with Lewis going across the line with Evo very, very close. But yeah, those two finish in first, second, and in third. We then have McManley in 4th. Handy Point came in 4th, so just outside of the podium, unfortunately. But what a great showing for his first Nighthawk race. I'm trying to catch everybody. See, that's the problem with these quick drivers. They're all across the finish line at the same point. So it's hard to get them all crossing the line. But yeah, Kirk, talk to me about that race.
Absolutely. We saw Louis. Obviously, once Pedro made that slight mistake, with a few laps to go, once he got into the front, there's no looking back, which is unfortunate. I think Pedro drove a very very solid race. He ended up getting the lead early on. Obviously, he started on pole. He managed to break away from the pack early on, but unfortunately didn't quite manage to hold on until the very end, Sarah, where it really matters. Also, so I got to feel bad for Handy Pint, picking that final half-second penalty up on the final lap, which cost him a podium position potentially. on that run up to the line. Um, in the end, I think it was a very good race. We didn't see Swizzy cut through the pack as fast as we thought he might have compared to last season, which has got to be a good showing for this year, Sarah. Um, hopefully, we see a lot more close battles in the sprint races as we saw throughout that entire race. And there was a lot of close battling. I think even towards the bottom end of the in the mid pack, we saw the top seven separated by less than 7 seconds. Sarah, that's less than a second per car, and that was after 15 minutes after an entire stint of tyres wear. Sarah.
Yeah, I've got to say I'm speechless. Um, those everyone being so close to each other, it's a pleasure to see. Some really good close battling, and for the majority of the race, everyone was in the same sector. So there was always constantly moves happening, overtaking, swapping positions, and if this is anything to go by, just a sprint race, I think we are in for a great season with all these drivers. Very talented drivers, I've got to say. And yeah, Swizzy has got a few more challenges up his sleeve this season. As you can see, made his way up to 6th place. But yeah, obviously he is learning the RCF. I'm not sure if it's a car that he drives a lot, but that's one challenge. And the second challenge is trying to beat all these talented drivers. As obviously we know Swizzy is a very talented driver himself. But yeah, a very high caliber of racing and racers we've seen so far. So I'm very excited. But yeah, as we just get ready, they're just setting up the feature race, and obviously it goes back to where they qualified. All drivers must start the feature race on the tyre they qualified on and set their fastest lap on. But Kirk, while we get ready for that, feel free to run down the finishing positions of the sprint race.
Absolutely, Sarah. So first place we have Louis, who also got the fastest lap, well, Dark Lord. Um, that is a full 21 points and a maximum start off to his campaign this season. Followed by Evo in second, only in the end less than 2.5 tenths back after 15 minutes. That's certainly a very close racing. Um, then we have McManley in third, capitalised off handy pints, tyres really dying on the final lap. Obviously, unfortunately, Handy Pint picked that half-second penalty up on the final lap, which helped Manly in the end to take the final podium position. That's fourth Handy Pint, fifth Pedro. Unfortunately, in the end, the tyre wear caught up to him, starting off very well, leading quite comfortably for most of that race. But in the final 2 or 3 laps, them tyres really letting go and losing all grip, and possibly a slightly disappointing fifth, but I'm sure Pedro will be very happy. In sixth place, 2 seconds behind, oh, yeah, just about 2 seconds behind Pedro, we have Swizzy, who possibly expecting slightly more from Swizzy during this sprint race tonight. However, racing against new people, Interlagos maybe not the easiest track to overtake on, especially as we saw in the first few laps where everyone was right up against each other, possibly being a bit safe and cautious to ensure you don't hit anyone, possibly pick up unnecessary penalty. Um, and then we have the person who followed him, who qualified second in qualifying behind him, Malcolm. Again, them two separated by about a tenth and a half on the run up to the line. Unfortunately, Malcolm finishing seventh. The McLaren not being the fastest car in the straight line, which could possibly lead to his downfall during the race when it comes to trying to make an overtake. Eighth deadline, I'm sure he'd be very happy with P8, especially considering how many fast drivers were in front of him in the end. Ninth, we have Etu or Sophia. We saw her pick up a few penalties during that sprint race, but I'm sure she'll be keeping it cleaner for the feature race tonight. and possibly looking at finishing higher up. And it's a shame we missed that run to the line between Etu and Kai because it seemed quite close as Kai in the end was at less than half a tenth behind her, finishing 10th. As we saw him in the middle sector, he clipped the inside grass, which caused him to spin out. And that really affected his race. Not 100% sure what happened to Lewis, um, as we saw him running towards the front of the field early on, then before slowly dropping back. And certainly a race to forget for Midnight Icer after touching the grass on the outside, causing him to half spin. I'm sure he'll be looking to bounce back strongly in the feature race, especially considering what his good friend and fellow admin Pedro did in the sprint race, Sarah.
Just following on from what Kirk said, yeah, everyone having a pretty good showing for the first race of the season. I hope all of the races enjoyed the first kind of racing taster session of the Nighthawk Racing family. Like I say, me and Kirk have been kind of non-stop. Everyone was providing some good moves, some good overtakes. There was never a point in that race where me and Kirk really had the time to breathe. Saying that, I'm running out of breath.
About to start, Sarah.
Yep, we are lining up on the grid.
Away they go. We see a good start from down from Etu, all going up to fourth. Katie Kai looking to go around the outside column, and Sophia is up Kai's inside. Maybe a little bit of contact there. Katie Kai really pushing Sophia out on the exit as we see Evo getting past McManley. Etu, what a start! P6 to P3 off the start line, Sarah. Running down the Retroposta, we see Swizzy comfortably leading from Malcolm, followed by flying Etu, who's leading up into third, who could possibly now be under pressure from KD Kai, running up the hill, going to the triple apex right-hander in the middle. As we see Kai trying to hold it around the outside, as Etu breaks later, takes the racing line, and they're not letting Kai cut back. Then we follow P5 with Evo, McManley in P6, Dark Lord or Louis in P7, being pushed along by LB or Lewis, Lewis in the middle sector. Midnight ISO holding P9, Deadline 10th, Handy Pint in 11th, and Pedro rounding out the pack in P12, Sarah.
Yeah, what a first couple corners that was. Well done to you, Kirk, because I don't think I would even be able to kind of comprehend what happened there. It all happened so quickly because we've got some really quick drivers. So well done to you for capturing that all. But yeah, we've going on to our second lap. We still have Swizzy leading with Callum just behind, trying to follow him as much as we can. And I believe Sophia's going for a move on KD the Kai into turn 1.
Kai is trying to go around the outside of Sophia into the S's. We saw these two come to blow on the first lap, or as we see KD Kai possibly tapping Sophia slightly wide, and Sophia returning the favour, just barely giving it enough room, which allows Evo to come past. Although Evo had a control disconnect.
My God!
Or is it lag? I'm not quite sure what's happening to Evo.
I think unfortunately Evo might have disconnected there. By the looks of it, he flew off into the distance. So, but doesn't have any damage. So I'm not quite sure what happened there. That will be one for the stewards to look at afterwards. But other than that, I believe everyone else is doing all right. But yeah, Sophia picking up that third place because of the unfortunate disconnect. As we see McManley as well, also trying to fight for that podium position.
I'm not sure how that affected KD Kai. Obviously KD Kai's now dropped down to P5 behind McManley. I'm not sure if it's as we see KD Kai getting on getting onto the grass on the final corner and half spinning, which is now dropping him behind Dark Lord or Louis, and putting him under pressure from LB. Midnight, Deadline, and Handy Pint. Oh, what a terrible second lap for KD the Kai, Sarah.
Yeah,
As we see
unfortunately.
them trying to go 4 wide in front of him.
Yeah, I was just looking at that as well. I was thinking, oh, this is close. But yeah, unfortunately, Katie the Kai just touching a little bit of grass there, which is very easily done around here. And the grass is not the racing driver's best friend. It does like to kind of cause a little bit of havoc and a little bit of chaos. When people
That's
say,
a bit naughty there
yeah,
from.
oh sorry, when people say that gamers should go touch some grass, sim racers don't want to touch grass because it just causes a completely different problem. But what were you going to say, Kirk?
It looks like on turn two, converging lines, a little bit of contact there between, I think it was Midnight and Handy Pint, which caused Handy Pint to go a bit wide and dirty his tyres. That was at the Center S's turn two, crossing over. So yeah, turn one cross over turn two. It looks like Midnight may have run into the side of Handy Pint and pushed him wide. No harm, no foul, as Handy Pint is still on the back of this little battle of five. Five for P7 or P6, should I say, Sarah?
Yeah, I can just see with the mini map a few groups forming. We'll stay with this group for now.
I was saying, it looks like McManley has managed to get past Sophia, with Sophia still looking up the inside for turn two, holding it around the outside, shall I say, for turn two, which gives her the inside line for turn three. Can McManley tuck back up the inside behind that Renault for the run down the Retroposta into turn four? And he thinks better of it as he gives Sophia or Etu a slight little bump, which gives Louis the chance to look down McManley's inside as McManley, Louis squeezing McManley right out to the edge of the track. But in the end, he cleanly gets that move done for P4, and now he will be hunting down that third place that Etu or Sophia has, Sarah.
Yeah, Sophia under a lot of pressure here with Lewis and McManley just behind her, but she's holding on. She's holding on to that first place, nice and strong. Other than that, people behind also trying to follow up and close that gap between the fight for the third place. The two BMW drivers of LB and Deadline quite close to each other. Yeah, I'm just scanning through everybody. Everyone seems to be still going, which is obviously good to see. Obviously 4 laps in, a lot of action still to be had. Unfortunately, I'm not sure what happened to Evo, like I say, but hopefully he looks like he's about to close the gap and should be on the back of Pedro anytime soon. So he'll be looking to climb a few positions after the unfortunate disconnect. But yeah, anybody that you're keeping your eye on at the moment?
I'm looking at this battle for third between Etu, Louis / Dark Lord and McManley. Etu certainly seems to be feeling the pressure as the rear of that Renault seems to be sliding all over the place, Sarah. She's holding off for now, but Louis is only closing that gap, which is in turn only increasing the pressure on Etu. I'm not sure how much longer she'll be able to hold off as this slight train is being held up behind her, Sarah.
Yeah, I don't think. I think Louis and Mac will be sticking with Sophia. But talking about Sophia and talking about the Renault, I've heard it being the dark horse. Not a lot of drivers pick it, but it's generally okay. From what I've heard, I've not personally driven it a lot, but Sophia is definitely one. She likes to not choose kind of the OP cars. She likes to learn the cars that not a lot of people pick. So it's good to see her in the Renault, and it's good to see kind of hopefully she'll be able to get some good results in that car. As like I say, she's a fan of kind of picking cars that not a lot of other drivers will pick.
I think she could be under a bit of pressure now, running down the Retroposta, as that gap is about 0.3 of a second. Is Louis going to be close enough maybe not this lap, but that gap is certainly decreasing. For now, she can stay ahead as that gap is again just about 0.3 of a second. Other than that, I think that is our closest battle right now. As we see Deadline running very wide on the exit of turn 4, is that going to put him under pressure from Handy Pint? Not quite, but he has picked up a half-second penalty. Which obviously is not the greatest thing to have, but it's still very early days yet, Sarah.
Yeah, unfortunately, penalties obviously they do slow drivers down a little bit, and kind of it doesn't hurt you at the moment, but it hurts at the kind of the latter stage of the races, because that half second you might not think it's kind of much, but over the course of a longer race, when you do pick up quite a few, it does kind of affect results. But oh, what happened there? Did Louis?
Oh,
We both
I
spotted that at the
believe
same
Louis
time.
has. I believe Louis has gone wide on the exit of the final corner, which has caused him to, yeah, looks like he's just been a bit too eager, tried to extend the track a little bit too much, and which has caused him to run wide and half spin on the exit of the final corner, Sarah, which has dropped him down at the back of the pack. It looks like a long recovery drive now to try and salvage possibly a P5 or P4 in this race, Sarah.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Unfortunately, obviously having that little bit of a off-track excursion there has dropped him quite far back. But on the other side, it has alleviated the pressure on Sophia just that little bit. Obviously, Mac is a second, or just under a second now, behind her. But she can have kind of a few corners to breathe, if she hasn't already. I suggest breathing. But yeah, I think McManley will be looking to kind of close that gap and fight for that third place. But a little bit of breathing room for Sophia now. But yeah, just going back to the group that's just slightly behind that group, we have Handy Point, Kai, Deadline, Midnight, Swizzy. We now have Evo as well back in that group, picking up 3 positions already. So Evo's back in it. He's ready to fight and to climb up a few positions. But yeah, what do you think of the first kind of opening 7 laps as a whole?
Seven laps, I feel like it's been quite exciting. I see Malcolm is keeping Swizzy honest so far at the front, which is not quite what we saw last season. We saw Swizzy running away from Kai quite a bit last season, and Kai's optimum strategy, obviously helping him out towards the end of the race. We might see that today. We might see Kai, who's in P6 right now. I think we might see him come more towards the front towards the end of this race. Sophia, very impressive so far, especially at the start of this race, maintaining the P3 that she secured on the first lap with that excellent start. McManley, again, very impressive. Oh, as we see Sophia running slightly wide, which could put her under a bit of pressure running up the hill after the final corner. Then we see a new face, LB/Lewis, in P5. He'd be very happy. I'm sure he'd be very happy with his drive so far. And we got one of our regulars from last season, Kai in P6. We saw a slight mistake from him early on, but he's recovering quite well at the moment. And then our first of the medium runners the first of our medium runners from the start, Handy Pine. P7 right now, as we see Sophia pitting as them rear tyres are getting a bit too worn for her taste. Handy Pine in running currently P7, P6 now that Sophia's pitted. It'll be interesting to see how his strategy comes to him. Obviously, starting on the mediums means that he can essentially run softs to the end now if you would like. It's a bit early to be thinking about that potential run of tyres. As we see, lap 9 is about 50% fuel, so we know you can go to about lap 18 or so. But I think maybe a bit too much to ask to get to the end or for a one stop fuel wise. P7 Evo has now climbed back up to P7 after that slight little internet problems we saw him have at the start of the race. Um, so being P7 right now, I'm sure he'd be very happy with that with his slight recovery drive. P8, we have Midnight ISO, one of our admins in the Night Hockey Racing League in P8. After his little half spin incident, we see Dark Lord / Louis in P9. I'm sure he hasn't seen the last of him. Although he's probably down towards the back right now, I'm sure we'll see him towards the front later on.
We have a new leader.
Yes, I was going to get to that. We see Swizzy boxing now, obviously under a bit too much pressure to do what he did last season, where we'd often see people running longer in the race on fully worn tyres. But Swizzy's very clearly had enough of this set of softs and is moving on to a different tyre, which hands the lead to Malcolm. Comparing his tyres to Swizzy's old tyres, it certainly seems as if Malcolm can go a few more laps, Sarah.
Yeah, I've got to say, I'm very impressed with Callum's tyre wear. He started on the softs, 10 laps in, and they don't look as bad as some of the other drivers who started on softs. So maybe Callum is, the tyre whisperer. He's able to kind of hold on to them a little bit longer, which I think towards the end of the race will definitely come in his favour. But yeah, a 7-second gap to McManley behind. As we see quite a few drivers pitting, getting off the tyres they started in. But yeah, I think probably from that we're going to see at least 2 pit stops for each of the drivers. Like Kirk said, some may go for that one-stop strategy if they can pull it off. But 10 laps in, obviously we've still got 28 to go. So still a long way to go. But I think Malcolm is definitely showing that he's quite good on saving his tyre life and quite fast as well.
As we've seen McManley coming in as well. It'd be interesting to see where Malcolm comes out compared to Swizzy, the overcut. Obviously, Malcolm having the fresher tyres towards the end of the race. Do you think you had the advantage in the end to overcome Swizzy, Sarah?
Oh, that is a tough that is tough to call at the moment. We all know how quick Swizzy can be. It's tough. I reckon it's going to be close towards the end. I think it might be just that slight bit too early to tell. But it depends if Swizzy gets held up in traffic or not. I think that will depend as to how fast Swizzy will get back in the lead, and if it kind of gives that breathing room between himself and Callum. I'm not quite sure, but it's good to see someone challenging Swizzy. Obviously, we saw it a few times last season, but obviously both GTRs of Katie the Kai and Swizzy usually battling it out. It's good to see a different car as well challenging Swizzy, and obviously Swizzy challenging himself in a new car as well. But yeah, very impressed with all the drivers so far. It's been an amazing 11 laps. They've flown by, because I feel that's because we're always talking. There's always something happening, which is really good to see, and kind of makes our job a little bit easier as well.
Yeah. As we see, Handy Pine going to P2 in front of both Kai and Evo, who's both of their soft tyres look completely worn. It's interesting to see comparing Malcolm's front tyres being soft are actually in better shape than Handy Pine's medium, Sarah. I've just noticed that.
Yeah, potentially that could be because Handy Pine has been in a few battles. He's had to use the tyres up quite fast compared to Callum, who's kind of just been chilling in P2 behind Swizzy. So maybe that was kind of a smart strategy from Callum, just kind of holding onto those tyres for as long as possible, where unfortunately if you get caught in battles or you get caught behind drivers, it does kind of change your strategy a little bit. But yeah, I was just saying, between Callum's soft tyres and Evo's and Midnight's tyres, both obviously all in the McLaren, Callum has been able to hold on to those soft tyres for quite a long time compared to the other drivers.
Yeah, absolutely. It looks like he's pitting this lap though. It'd be interesting to see. I see we already see alternating strategies come into play as we see both Louis and Midnight, who took less fuel from their pit stops, jumping both Etu. Oh, sorry, excuse me, both Etu and McManley. Um, as we see Etu forcing McManley onto that curb, and the rear of that Merc does not like accelerating on those curbs as he spikes into Etu. Maybe costing them both a bit of time. Maybe this isn't Etu's fight as she is on the hard tire. Um, but yeah, as we see, both she is fighting hard to hold her track position. As maybe that is where she sees her battle. This race will be holding track position, Sarah.
Potentially, yeah. I think Sophia might be going towards the end if she can kind of stretch that fuel towards the end. Obviously, going on that hard tyre, she's in for the long haul, shall we say? A hard tyre on GT7 is not the favoured kind of tyre to be on. It does kind of pose a new challenge, but I'm sure if Sophia can kind of stick with these drivers here, she should be fighting for some positions as they go 3 wide. Potentially. Oh no, Sophia comes out on top with Evo just behind and McManley just behind Evo. But yeah, I think Sophia will be trying to keep those drivers behind her for as long as she can. And
Evo looking at a very aggressive dummy into a turn. I believe that is turn 6, 7, and 8. But in the end, the hard tyres got nothing compared to the soft tyres that Evo goes through, trying to recover its race from that first lap incident he had with the internet, Sarah.
yeah, and I've got to say that his recovery drive so far, he's been super quick. It didn't take him long to really get those positions again. Yeah, and obviously being on another set of softs, he'll be looking to climb even further probably. I'm just going to pop to leader. So the gap between Swizzy and Callum is 4.7 seconds. So Swizzy does come out on the lead again. But will Callum be able to kind of, towards the end of the race, threaten for the win? Or will Swizzy run away with it for the first race?
I'm not sure. We see Louis or Louis or Dark Lord really pressuring Callum. Obviously, right now, Dark Lord's soft tyres being a lot quicker than what Callum has from his Callum can extract from his mediums right now. Will we possibly see Louis getting past within the lap or two, Sarah?
Potentially, he is right behind Callum. Although saying that, nearly side by side. Yes, it'll be interesting to see who comes out on top between these two here. As you say, Callum being on the medium tyres, he's going slightly longer, where as opposed to Louis or the Dark Lord going for kind of a quicker tyre. Obviously, probably will need to pit again before the end of the race. So I think it's going to be a close battle between these two, especially if Louis can keep with Callum. But yeah, across the field, I see a lot of battles brewing, or about to brew. As we've got that pack from, I believe, if I just jump ahead, it is P6 all the way down to about P9, well, P10 actually, Sophia being on the back of this group here. So got a nice little group here forming, everyone quite close together, and all fighting.
I'm sorry, Sarah. I didn't mean to interrupt. I just can't help but feel it. Has Sophia maybe gone with the wrong strategy, taking the hard tyres now? sure, she'll have track position, but the amount of time she's losing to the people at front, such as your Swizzy and your Malcolm, um, Sophia right now being in the high 34s and low 35s, while at the back of this train of cars, well, the two people she was challenging, Swizzy and Malcolm's, are both in, well, with Swizzy being in the low 32s, and Malcolm being in the mid 32 on his outlap. We also see the people who were around her, such as Dark Lord and Evo, again with Evo dropping almost in a high 30 in that previous lap, and Dark Lord or Louis again running in the 32s. I can't help but think, has Sophia potentially made the wrong strategy call here, Sarah?
Yeah, like I said a moment ago, the hard tyres obviously not being a tyre that a lot of drivers pick, and purely because, like you referred to there, it's not the quickest. I find it harder to drive on. I don't know if that's kind of personal preference or not, or if other kind of races feel the same. But it's one of those tyres that feels really hard to drive on, and doesn't make me feel comfortable. So that might be kind of reflective of her times currently. But I think, like you say, it will be track position, and potentially maybe towards the end she might go on that another set of softs, try and gain a few positions that she might be losing through going on that hard set of tyres. But yeah, not a tyre that we see very often, but for a lot of people, it will be their first race or first kind of session back on GT7. So it will. I assume this race will be a lot of data gathering for race 2. See what tyres work, see what tyres don't work, as to decisions they'll make further on in the season. But most drivers picking soft and mediums.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we even saw it last season with a lot of drivers' preferred tyre being the soft and mediums, but the hard tyres weren't really used as they were didn't offer enough grip and were considerably slower to the medium tyre. As we see Handy Pint looking around the outside of Manley into turn one, he brakes later. He tightens. He tries to squeeze McManley on the apex, and that move is quite simply done on in the end. McManley not being able to defend on those medium tyres compared to Handy Pint soft, Sarah.
No, I was just on board with that. Handy Pint tucking in behind McManley, getting that slipstream into turn 1, and yeah, simply put, made it work, made it stick through the first couple of corners, and is looking to catch Evo in front of him. And I've got to say, Handy Point doing a stellar job so far. He's kind of just in that midfield at the moment, fighting everybody, and I'm sure he'll be on the back of the likes of Evo and Midnight shortly. But is there anybody that you're keeping an eye on now?
Yeah, I think right now it's definitely the battle between the two McLaren drivers at Midnight and Evo. Evo, on the last few laps being over a second faster than Midnight. So you'd only assume this move is a matter of time as that gap is closing, running into the first corner. You can physically see how much closer Evo is getting. Is he going to dive to the inside? He does dive to the inside. Midnight not defending so hard, so maybe he knows that this is not his battle to fight. In the end, it makes it quite easy for Evo and Sarah.
Yeah, helping a fellow McLaren driver out. I potentially, like you say, I think it's not my fight. We'll let Evo through, avoid kind of contact. Although saying that, Midnight looks to the inside line. Will he make it stick? These two going side by side. Oh, Evo just getting on that accelerator just a little bit quicker.
Yeah, trying to run side by side, running up the hill into turn 6, 7, and 8. In the end, Midnight does not have it in the tank to be able to challenge Evo against Sarah.
No, and both drivers been on the soft tyres, so a double soft strategy for the two McLaren drivers so far. But yeah, I think Midnight will want to kind of challenge Evo that a little bit, but he'll also kind of be thinking ahead as to what tyres he wants to go on next, the strategy, and trying to finish as high as possible after the sprint race. But yeah, I think everyone so far, we've not seen so much drama. It's just been nice and chilled, but also in the another word, it's not been chilled because we've been they've been keeping on us on our toes the whole race. Obviously, 18 laps in, we've still got quite a few laps to go. Still got 20 laps to go, so we're in for the long haul. We're in for some more battles brewing towards the end, I can imagine. But I've got to say,
Yeah, absolutely.
everyone doing a phenomenal job so far.
Yeah, absolutely. I can second that. We certainly see it. We've seen Malcolm dropping Dark Lord or Louis a little bit as his softs wear out compared to Malcolm's mediums. It's interesting to know, although Malcolm boxed 2 laps later than Swizzy, look at the tyre wear difference. Swizzy absolutely chewing through those mediums compared to Malcolm, Sarah.
Yeah, the Lexus doesn't look like it kind of handles or saves the tyres very well.
Swizzy made a mistake there because that gap is just dropped about 1.2 seconds. It was about 5 seconds and it's now down to 3.5. Sarah.
We'll have a look at the replay, see if anything happened. Not that I can see. Might have just obviously slowed it down a little bit. Maybe he heard us. Maybe he thought I've got to save those tyres a little bit. But yeah, the Lexus obviously a new challenge. He was quite good at saving those tyres on the GTR, so he'll be learning. Well, he'll be kind of figuring out the tyre life and the tyre kind of range on the Lexus. But yeah, the gap down to 3.5 seconds between the first and second. As I said, that 3.3. But Callum, you can just see him in the distance. He'll be looking to get on top of Swizzy as soon as he can. But yeah, it's quite astonishing the strategy. Well, the strategy and the tyre life of both Swizzy and Callum, being on 2 different strategies, 2 different cars. You can definitely say that Callum is the tyre whisperer at this point. They barely look used.
Absolutely. It's interesting to note as well. Malcolm Callum Malcolm, being consistently faster than Swizzy, which is something we did not see at all last season, Sarah. So we look at Malcolm running consistently in the high 31s, where Swizzy doesn't seem to, it hasn't cracked a 31 for the last 6 laps or so. As you're saying, his mediums are really starting to struggle compared to Malcolm's, Sarah.
Yeah, I think that there'll be a battle for the lead shortly, as that gap is now down to 2.7 seconds. I think, obviously, Callum being on the mediums as well, he'll be able to go that a little bit longer. And I can envision Swizzy having to pit shortly. Talking about Kai, I just saw that he set, a few laps ago, he set the fastest lap of a 1:30. Yeah, unfortunately, 14 seconds behind deadline. But obviously Kai was a last minute driver of today, so obviously not expecting to race and then to race. You can appreciate the kind of the difficulty of not having a lot of practice and jumping into a race like this with these sort of drivers. But an honourable shout out to KD the Kai as always, showing us his skills in that GTR. And talking about Dark Lord back into the pits on picking up a set of mediums.
It looks like he could possibly be going to the end of this race now on those mediums, taking a full tank of fuel and possibly looking to maybe drive a little bit slower. Well, I know Louis, I know he is not going to drive slower. He's going to be flat out all the way to the end. But I'm just thinking, is he possibly going to go to the end now on this set of tyre and take track position, Sarah?
Uh, Potentially, yeah. Obviously, he probably knows that a lot of the drivers in front of him will have to pit shortly, again, as most of them did choose to go on that second set of softs. And obviously, they need to use a different compound of tyre. So, yeah, it could be for track position. Obviously, we've still got Sophia on those hard tyres as well. And I've got to say, for those hard tyres, they are looking a little bit worn now. That that rear right tyre has seen some better days. But she seems to be getting into the groove of using those hard tyres. But I can envisage her kind of pitting towards the last couple of laps, going on that soft set of tyres, and potentially maybe challenging for the fastest lap.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, as we saw, these hard tyres do not seem to have the pace in them at all. Her best lap on these hard tyres being a low 33, which she's only really managed to do once. As we see her run wide on the exit of turn 4, which is obviously not going to help her out at all, as she looks like she's dropped about a second or two to Lewis or LB or Lewis, picking up a second penalty as well, which is not helpful for her race on the hard tyre at all, Sarah. Would you be tempted to ditch these hards for a set of mediums, potentially?
Yes, I'd probably hold on for a little bit longer. Because obviously we've still got about 16 laps left. Ish. I'm not very good at maths. But I mean, if she can bring those mediums to the end, I would definitely suggest pitting to go on those mediums. Maybe bring on a little bit more fuel if she needs be. But knowing that a lot of the drivers around her will have to pit, I would pit as well. Get on a set of tyres that she's more comfortable with, and then she'll be able to kind of fight the drivers around her a little bit more. Because as I say, the physics of that hard tyre, they are a little bit annoying.
So this is not a drill. Swizzy is under serious threat now from Malcolm, looking at losing the lead as Malcolm looks towards the inside. Swizzy leaves the door open to it. Maybe not fully committed there for Malcolm to make the move, and Swizzy in the end opens the door and let Malcolm pass. But as I say, Malcolm caught about 1.2 seconds in half a lap. Those mediums are absolutely finished on Swizzy's car. Yeah, maybe this is Malcolm's race to win now, Sarah. If all
Potentially.
things go to plan.
Potentially,
Yeah,
yeah.
without 15 laps to
Go for it.
yeah, I was saying without 15 laps to go, I don't think a set of softs will get him to the end. Where for Malcolm, it looks like if it wasn't fuel wasn't a concern, it looks like he could probably take those mediums another 15 laps to the end. As we see Midnight pitting from 4th position. This is going to drop him quite far down the order, Sarah, because it looks like he has to take quite a bit of fuel to get to the end of this race, Sarah.
Yeah, and talking about fuel, I was just looking at Callum's fuel. Potentially, I'm not sure. He might have to pit again anyway for some fuel. We all know that obviously Swizzy will have to pit again as well. But yeah, a new leader in Callum. It's, it's weird to see. We have someone else in the lead. But it's like I say, it's good to see kind of some new faces challenging for the top spot. As much as we love Swizzy as well, he's obviously challenging for that top spot again in a slightly different car. But showing, he's the pace. It doesn't matter what car he's in. Swizzy's got the pace no matter what. And I'm sure towards the end he'll be fighting for that top spot again. But it just shows that the caliber of drivers that we have in tonight, all being astonishingly, I can't speak, very fast. Basically, I was trying to use posh word, but at this time of the night, who needs to use posh words anyway? But yeah, all being kind of really fast. We see Swizzy coming in, getting off those medium set of tyres, probably picking up some fuel as well. Along with Evo, who's just behind. I wonder if Evo will be able to pose a challenge as well to Swizzy.
be interesting to see what tyres they go on to as well. I think maybe 14 laps is too much for a set of softs. Um,
Pedro
I
on no
do
fuel.
believe this is.
Oof.
I do believe this is now Malcolm's race to lose, as he seems to be in the lead in the driver's seat for this race. Um, yeah, I'm not sure what Swizzy can do to be able to really combat Malcolm Sarah.
No, maybe towards the end, if Callum does have to pit, it might be bringing Swizzy back into that top spot. But Swizzy obviously is quite close to Evo now, and all know how fast Evo can be as well. And I was slightly distracted there by Pedro coming in with zero fuel, so he was cutting it fine, for sure. But Evo as well, taking on quite a lot of fuel. He's ready to go to the end. But yeah, Swizzy coming out in P4. Obviously, Sophia, McManley, and Callum in front of him. But yeah, Callum just running away with it, having a nice time out in the lead. I can imagine. But yeah, do you want to run us through the grid so far? Obviously, 26 laps in. Nowhere close to the finish just yet.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're about 13 laps to go, leading us so far by 22 seconds. So the car behind is Malcolm at 98 in that pink McLaren. Obviously we expect. Well, we know looking at his field, we know he's going to have to pit again. But it'll be interesting to see how he compares to Swizzy. Maybe Swizzy can undercut him, but we are pretty much guaranteed to see Malcolm run to the end on the soft tyre when he pits. Following Malcolm, we have McManley looking at that fueling those tyres. Again, McManley is going to have to box, possibly challenging for a podium from Etu and Evo behind him. Then we have Swizzy. Swizzy, who has now made his final stop of this race. Really looking to challenge Malcolm is his only real threat for this win tonight. For now, from Swizzy, it is head down and it has got to be flat out qualifying laps. Otherwise, he will be under serious threat of not being able to win this race due to Malcolm. Fourth is Sophia slash Etu. Braver than most with her strategy call. Probably not the strategy call I would have made going on to the hard tyres, but that is why I'm sat in the commentary booth tonight and not out on track. It certainly she seems to have been able to make the track position work as she is running in fourth. She certainly cannot complain with that. So if it's working for her, all the power to her. Following a two, we have Evo. Evo, who we have we know has made his final stop for tonight. Running P5, so it's certainly looking at challenging McManley and Sophia for that final podium position. Following that, we have Handy Pie. Who has certainly done a remarkable job coming back in this race. From where we saw him on the first few laps battling for P9, P10 with Midnight, he's certainly driven a solid race, possibly being underdog of the day. We're looking up in P6 and potentially hunting down the likes of A2 and possibly jumping McManley when McManley has to pit again. Then we have Midnight ISO in P7 again. Another person who's possibly underdog of the day. We've seen him running an alternative strategy, which has saw him run in the podium positions as possible commentators curse there, as we see him getting all squirrely on the exit of turn 4. Following that, we have Louis in P8. Again, possible strategy has let him down tonight, which has left him in P8. We did see towards the end of his first stint him getting quite wide on the exit of the final corner and having that spin which dropped him down towards the back. So he's been recovering ever since. But looking at a potential top 6 finish tonight, which is surely, compared to his usual standards, not where he would like to be. but certainly not bad for a recovery drive. And then following the sprint race where we finished P5, quite a quiet race from Pedro tonight. We've seen him run towards the front a little bit tonight, running his alternative strategy. Again, it could potentially be a bit of a sloppy race tonight as we see him pick up another penalty. Well, see him have another penalty. Um, I'm sure he'll bounce back in the coming weeks. And tonight we'll just be gaining more experience with the car and with the tyres. And then P10 we have LB or Lewis, as been referred to in chat. Again, not really heard much from him. We've seen him running around the top five, top six mark. Very clearly made his final stop now for the night and just driving to the finish to see how many places he can pick up when other people box. Our fastest lap holder of the night, we have Katie Dekai. Obviously, we saw him have an unfortunate incident at the final corner, which obviously saw him spin out and lose a bunch of time. I'm not sure if he's been taking this race too seriously now tonight. I'm pretty sure he's just been setting hot laps, seeing where he can finish potentially and gain the extra bonus points for having the fastest lap. And last and certainly not least, we have Deadline. Haven't really seen much of Deadline this race. Obviously, being pretty quiet race from him from his standards. We've seen him last at the end of last season being able to defend quite aggressively and successfully from faster cars, given track position. But obviously, it must not have suited this track. Obviously, hasn't suited him very well tonight. As we saw, both Mutt Manley and Malcolm both boxed him with almost no fuel left, Sarah.
Yeah, I was just looking at that. Obviously, Swizzy just getting out ahead of Callum, but the gap's a second, or well, just under a second now. I keep saying that, and the time keeps changing. But yeah, I think we're in for 9 to 10 laps worth of these two battling it out, which is going to be a pleasure to watch. But yeah, both. Well, saying that, Callum is on the faster tyre. He's on the set of softs, picking up the required amount of fuel for him to finish. But Swizzy on those mediums. Can Callum win?
Interesting to note. Swizzy has less fuel than Callum, so has Swizzy potentially got to do a bit of fuel saving? Is he not quite safe on fuel compared to Malcolm behind? We see Etu, whose strategy really hasn't worked out today. Picking up another half-second penalty and losing the final podium position to Evo. So strategy probably costing Etu a chance at the podium tonight, Sarah.
Potentially. Yeah, obviously she's not too far away. But I think she'll definitely need to pit in the next coming laps for some fuel, and I think we'll definitely see her choose potentially the softs with 8 laps to go towards the end. But it's like I say, the first race, especially as Sophia again was our last minute joiner. I think this race will be a lot of data gathering for quite a few drivers, seeing what tyres work, seeing what tyres don't work, kind of seeing who your closest competitor's going to be in the season. So yeah, I think a lot of drivers will be taken on board the race today, kind of seeing where they can improve, see where they were strong, and we'll see maybe some different or alternative strategies for race number 2.
Yeah, absolutely. This is all a learning experience, isn't it? Tonight, obviously, first round. A lot of these people haven't raced, possibly haven't raced together before. Obviously, with everyone's feeling each other out, as in their paces, how aggressive they are when they drive and when they defend, and possibly scoping out each other's strategy choices and how good or not so good at strategy calls they are.
Ooh.
As we see, Sophie, as expected, Sophia pitting in again with 0% fuel,
I'm
Sarah.
sorry to interrupt you here, but you've got to see this move that Callum did on Swizzy. What a move! Getting back into that first place.
The inside, round the outside, get the inside line for turn 2 and swooped around. Bloody hell. Yeah, what a move from Callum. I'm not sure what to call him, Sarah. Yeah, what a move.
But yeah, what a move indeed. Obviously, building that gap up to Swizzy. Swizzy probably knowing that the move is coming, but probably wasn't sure if he was going to pull it off in the first couple of corners. But yeah, a lot of conviction there from Callum, getting that move done and trying to build that gap towards Swizzy. Who I've got to say that the mediums, the tyre life on that Lexus is not treating Swizzy very kindly today.
Absolutely not. Again, those mediums don't look in that great a shape. It certainly seems like the Lexus eats through them tyres, and it's not really much that Swizzy can do now. He kind of just got to wave bye to Malcolm with 6 laps remaining. I don't think there's any catching him, Sarah.
No. Unless
and possibly
you go for it.
I'm saying, and possibly looking from behind from Eva his last lap. Although Swizzy was battling, Eva was a second faster than Swizzy. It could potentially see Swizzy under threat as we see McManley diving down the inside of Louis / Dark Lord and getting that move done quite comfortably in the end for P4 era. And we're possibly seeing Louis losing a position to Midnight as well, as those medium tyres certainly seem like they've seen better days on Louis' car. McManley up the inside of Louis into turn 1, braking later, holding the apex, and in the end Louis knew he just could not fight that move off, Sarah.
No, knowing that the move is imminent, like you say, the medium tyres again not treating that GTR very kindly, as we see Midnight quite close behind. I'm sure he'll be gearing up for a move on Louis, or Lewis. But yeah, towards the last stage of the race, everyone's kind of bunching together a bit again, which is good to see, which then makes our job a lot harder, but to see where everyone's going to come out. But it's very hard to predict at this point, to be honest, for any positions really. I reckon it's never say never. You know, we know how Swizzy is phenomenally fast, and how well he drives, so I wouldn't write him off just yet. Obviously with 5 laps now to go towards the end. It's all to play for. A lot of drivers picking up a lot of points today. But yeah,
absolutely.
It's going to be.
I'm thinking between. I'm just thinking between this battle between Louis in the GTR and Midnight in the McLaren. Is Midnight possibly going to have to look for a dive in the middle sector, as that McLaren is notoriously slow on the straights compared to the GTR? I'm saying in the slipstream, it's only doing about 3 miles per hour, or was that about 5 Ks quicker in a straight line in the slipstream compared to that GTR, Sarah, which is not a lot to be able to make a move.
No, it makes it a lot harder to make the move stick as well. Obviously, the two cars being quite matched on speed, it's going to mean he's going to have to get it done in a corner, or if Lewis does make a mistake, unfortunately, which obviously don't want to commentate his curse or anything, but yeah, I think Midnight will be watching Lewis like a hawk now, seeing where he's slightly stronger, and he'll be gearing up for that move towards the end of the race. Just having a quick scan. Callum out in the lead with a 3.5 second lead, a quite convincing lead to Swizzy. I reckon Swizzy will still be happy with a P2 in this race. Obviously, first race back, a lot of pressure as well because obviously he's season's one champion in a different car, which requires kind of learning. It's basically going back to basics a little bit, learning the car, learning how it handles, the tyre life.
Louis touching the grass on the outside of outside on the braking towards turn 4, touching that grass, getting all out of shape, and now that gap is closed about half a second. And Midnight is now all over the back of
Ooh,
Louis.
Louis going very wide
Louis
there as well.
really, really, obviously feeling the tyre wear from the mediums and picking up a second penalty. Oh no!
That is going to hurt.
Oh, it's Louis. That is certainly going to hurt his race. That could potentially be the battle for P5 over, and maybe just a consolation drive to a P6 finish, Sarah.
Potentially, we all know kind of, especially taking the penalty there, the driver behind you will be looking to pass as quickly as he can, which is Midnight, obviously. I mean, I wouldn't write Lewis off just yet. Obviously, 4 laps to go. Well, 3 laps now. I keep saying that and then they go across the finish line. But yeah, 3 laps to go. The gap between the two is now 1.7 seconds. But obviously, these two drivers are quite matched, so potentially we might not see a move again before the end of the race. But I wouldn't write Lewis off just yet in that GTR. I think, if anything, he'll be able to get on the back of Midnight quickly again. But then this is what happens when the cars which are very similar in kind of speed. It makes it a lot harder to make the move stick, like Kirk said. So, yeah. It'd be interesting to see if he can. If not, I think he'll be happy with P6. Obviously, unfortunately, he did do a couple of races last season, but unfortunately, because of his internet, he wasn't able to join as many as he thought he was able to. So it's good to see him back, and hopefully he is with us for the rest of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. Say Malcolm made a slight mistake, unnecessary mistake, as he ran a bit wide at the final corner, causing that gap to close a little bit. But in the end, I don't think there's really any catching him in the end, Sarah.
No, a very convincing lead, and a surprise lead as well. Obviously, I think we all kind of expected Swizzy to get into the lead and run away with it, but just shows that some new faces are here to battle, here to fight Swizzy, and to take that trophy off of him.
I'm thinking is our battle now? Can Louis hold that front right? Is about dead on Louis' GTR. He's run very wide again in the exit of turn 3. Is it now? And he picked up a half-second penalty. Can Louis might not even be able to hold P6 at this rate, Sarah.
Potentially.
As Pedro is hunting him down by a multitude of tenths per corner.
I think it comes down to that. It comes down to that fact that if the race was 10 laps longer, Pedro would definitely be on the back of Lewis. So potentially with 2 laps to go, I'm not sure if he'll get it, but I think Louis will know for next time how tough that GTR can be on tyre life.
Absolutely. I was saying he's already dropped to this lap to Midnight. He's already dropped almost 2.5 seconds, and it's only increasing. Sarah, that gap between Pedro is now sub 6 seconds. I think Louis might actually lose this position to Pedro, Sarah.
Yeah, I mean this was a play for. If Pedro can get get on the back of Lewis, I'm sure he'll be very, very happy indeed about that. Obviously, like you say, Pedro having a quieter race than normal. So yeah, I think Pedro will be happy to overtake someone like Lewis.
As we see a battle for P10 between LB and S02 As actually looking around the outside as LB's trying to squeeze her over to the right. LB outbreaks himself, which allows Etu just to cut at the inside and say, "Thank you very much, sir." And off she goes on her way, Sarah.
Yeah. Obviously, like I say, Sophia going onto that soft set of tyres, and feeling more comfortable on those soft set of tyres. Only a tenth slower than the fastest lap. So I think Sophia will potentially, she'll be kind of like kicking herself a little bit as to why she didn't go on the softs earlier on, or the mediums. But I mean, what a race Sophia's having so far. She's last minute call up, but having a good
Ooh,
race.
it was very close there between Handy Pint and Katie Kai. Katie Kai, whose tyres are completely dead at this point, as Handy Pint looks to the inside of the final corner. As Katie Kai has got nothing left to fight with and just easily overtakes Katie Kai at the final corner, Sarah. There's a similar story between Katie Kai and Louis here, where neither of them have anything left really to fight with, as Louis is almost out of fuel, let alone out of tyre wear.
Yeah, and as drivers go on to the final lap, we will go on board with Callum, who's looking to lap deadline. Can he get it
Potentially
done?
in deadline. Yeah, I think deadline will want to do the final lap out of pride, um, rather than give up. But certainly it has been an absolute, we wouldn't say dominant drive, but 10-second lead in the end. Swizzy, who couldn't not keep up with the superior tyre wear of that McLaren, taking the maximum amount of points in the feature race tonight, is Malcolm 98, followed by Swizzy, with that gap being in the end 10.1 seconds, as Swizzy in the end had nothing left to fight with. Evo, a fantastic recovery drive after that. It's what we saw, a slight desync at the first lap, which dropped him down to last, coming back to secure a podium, at being only 10 seconds behind Swizzy in the end. What a fantastic drive from Evo. Manley taking P4 in the four. Midnight, a superb P5 finish. Talking to Midnight before this race, he didn't think he was going to get within the top 10, and here he is proving himself wrong with maybe not superior pace, but certainly superior strategy, finishing a brilliant P5 in the end. Louis Ruby was a bit closer than you would like to, like to think it would be to Pedro. Fortunately, holding on to that P6. Pedro not quite being able to secure in the end that P6. Although given one or two more laps, I'm sure Pedro would have had it. Handy Pike finishing P8, recovering from what we saw earlier, that little half spin he had towards the start of the race, finishing P8. Katie the Kite, a disappointing race at P9. I'm sure we would have hoped for a lot better result tonight, in both feature race and sprint race. I'm sure he'll bounce back strong next week. Um, then we'll go to P10 Etu. Obviously, in the end, the hard tyre was not the tyre to use this race. Unfortunately, tonight, um, we just did not go her way. Making a late overtake on LB to finish P10. I'm sure a lot to learn for next week. Possibly not going for the hard tyre, because it certainly did not work on that run. And then we've got the two BMWs of LB or Lewis, or LB/Lewis, and Deadline rounding out the grid tonight, Sarah.
Yes, and what a race that was. Our first race back, our first race of season 2, and what a phenomenal race it's been. It's kept us on our toes. We haven't really stopped talking. There's always been battles across the field. There's always something to look at. So, like I said earlier, if this is anything to go by, we're in for an absolute treat for season 2, and an absolute kind of a fun time watching all these drivers battling it out. And I'm already looking ahead. I'm already looking towards that, that last race. I'm already kind of trying to predict who's going to finish where, which very very early to call. But yeah, I mean, I'm intrigued and I'm excited to see these drivers battling it out all season long. Hopefully, but yeah, as Kirk said, here is your grid. Here's your finishing grid of tonight. So if Callum, Swizzy, or Evo does want to pop in the podium room, wants to have a little chat with us, feel free. If not, we understand, but we're not scary, we promise. But yeah, what a race!
Yeah, absolutely. Certainly in the last few laps with well, maybe not in the last few laps, but it's that fantastic overtake from Malcolm on the Swizzy, absolutely crazy scenes. And we certainly saw a lot of battles throughout the pack today. Certainly saw a lot of good overtakes, a lot of clean overtakes, which shows obviously we're building a very good, respected driving between our drivers already. Even though it is just the first round, so I'm looking forward to a season full of close battles and tight races.
Yeah, I'm excited, and yeah, everyone's been amazing. Before we jump into the podium room, Kirk, if you want to run down the grid for me.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, running out our results for tonight, we have Malcolm taking the victory tonight and the fastest lap of the race, which gives him the full 42 points on offer tonight for the feature race. Followed by Swizzy. Swizzy just could not live. Maybe he could live with the pace, but he could not live with the tyre wear of that Lexus compared to the McLaren. In the end, finishing maybe slightly disappointing, 10 seconds behind Malcolm in the end. Third place goes to Evo. As we saw a little incident, desync or lag on the end of the first lap, which dropped him down towards the back of the pack. To recover to third place shows his grit, his pace, and how determined he was to make something of the race tonight. Very impressive drive from Evo tonight. Um, it's difficult to say who I'd take as my driver of the day between Malcolm and Evo. I think given that Malcolm had the fastest lap and run the race as well as he did in the end, it has to go to Malcolm. But very, very, very high praise to Evo. Fourth being McManley. It was a it was a McManley drive. Solid, pretty quiet, but he drove a good strategy call, or a good strategy, and ended up comfortably finishing P4. Again, another driver who's impressed me a lot tonight. Um, Definitely finishing a lot higher than where he expected to be. Fifth place for our very own Midnight. I'm sure he'd be absolutely chuffed with his drive tonight, and certainly all the praise to him. Sick, we have Louis. Maybe, yeah, I think it's a bit of incident-prone driving and not the best strategy call. Um, as we saw him make that mistake at the final corner early on into the race, and really it was a recovery drive from that point on. I'm sure finishing 50 seconds off the lead is not where he would like to be in the following rounds, but I'm sure he'll certainly improve in the coming weeks to where he belongs to be up on that podium position. Again, another driver who maybe drove a quieter race, but certainly kept it clean and consistent, finishing a very decent P7. Another one of our own admin team, Mr. Pedro. Um, I'm I'm not again very quiet race. Obviously, we saw him obviously hunting down Louis towards the end of the race, just running out of time, getting that gap to under 2 seconds, but not quite being able to close quick enough to overtake him. But I'm sure it's certainly nothing to be ashamed about, especially with the strength of this grid. Handy Pipe, we see finishing P8. Um, yeah, we saw him definitely. We saw him running towards the front of the pack early on in the race. I'm certainly expecting to see impressive things further on it during the season. Obviously matching the times of our top four. Certainly expecting to see him up there at some point during this season. Um, so yeah, so he's expecting to see him somewhere up there. That's this season, and I'm sure he will certainly impress in the coming rounds. Um, I think two possible disappointing pointing drivers where they ended up finishing with Katie Lekai and Etu. Katie Lekai making that mistake again at the final corner, such an easy mistake to make, running just slightly too wide, getting on that grass and spinning. Um, I said in the end, very disappointing in the for Katie Lekai, but I'm sure if KDK is anything like he was last season, I'm sure he will bounce back strong in the coming weeks. Certainly at other tracks that possibly suit his driving style a bit more. And a similar story with Etu. It was a poor strategy call that chose to where she went on the hard tires and that kind of ruined her race. That long stint on the hard tire, a tire that obviously didn't have the pace to be able to keep up with the front, but showing a best lap only being less than a tenth behind the fastest lap. Maybe with a better strategy call, she could have been up there towards the front of the pack. But certainly don't take anything away from her. If she's got the pace, we'll certainly see her up there again in the coming weeks. And then our final two drivers round us out tonight. They're both Beamer drivers, LB or Lewis, and then Deadline rounding out the pack tonight, Sarah.
A few We've got a few people waiting. Sorry, I was muted there. I apologise. Pro streamer and that. But yes, in the calendar we are going to Kyoto next week, on the 27th. Like I say, there is a little bit of a glitch there, so just take it nice and fair, nice and respectful, and we'll be keeping an eye on it. But yes, there is a few people waiting in the podium room. Sorry to keep you so long, but we'll head over now. We'll have a quick chat. Cool. So we'll bring Evo in first. There he is. So, Evo, how's that?
Yeah, it was a bit disappointing. I don't know what happened, but first couple of laps, I was right behind the top four, and then my game just froze for a good 15 to 20 seconds, and then when it unfroze, I was 15 seconds behind everyone else, like the next car. So it was just a case of damage limitation of just trying to get back as many positions as I could. So I guess looking at where I was after the first 5 laps, podium, I'd be, I guess, happy with. But yeah, it's just a case of what could have happened if it wasn't for the random freeze.
But yeah, I mean, impressed is one word. But obviously having to deal with that problem and then still coming away with a podium, you should be megally kind of proud of yourself, and it just shows that you shouldn't give up ever, because you never know what's going to happen. But I will hand you over to Kirk. I'm sure he's got a few questions for you. So Kirk, when you're ready, if you've got any questions for Evo, feel free to ask.
So Evo drove a fantastic recovery drive today to finish on on the podium P3. So after that screen freeze, did you expect to be able to climb up as high as you did in the end?
I didn't really know what to expect, to be honest. I kind of had an idea that my pace was there or thereabouts. But the beauty with these races is you don't know what other people are doing in terms of strategy or whatnot. And I always know coming into any race that I do on GT7 that my tire wear is always a little bit worse than people around me. I've got quite a aggressive driving style, and also being on the pad, it absolutely tears through the tires. So I didn't know what to expect, to be honest. I didn't really give myself any goal. I was just For me, I was just like, just treat it as if I'm still going for the win. So I was just pretty much time trialing lap after lap after lap. Um, so yeah, I guess after a certain point, I was aiming for a podium. And then obviously got into P3, and from there I was pretty happy to just bring it home at that point.
No, yeah, well done. So congratulations for tonight. Um, so in the sprint race, especially towards the start in the first few laps, that everyone was really close together and battling quite hard. What was the sprint race like from your perspective as well?
I mean, I it's been a while since I've done proper sprint racing. I've done a lot of endurance racing recently, but you really do forget like the adrenaline rush you get from it, having so many cars in such a short you know bit on the track. It was really intense, and I do enjoy those kind of drives where you've got to be creative, you've got to be on your toes, because you've got drivers behind you who are constantly looking at an opening, might want to chuck it down your inside, and you're also thinking about doing the same to the driver in front. So you're on the defense, you're on the attack. There's cars everywhere. So I really enjoyed it, and it does make a nice change to the longer format of racing where things kind of spread out and it's more kind of this tactical battle. Whereas, yeah, with the sprint race, it's just, full on, just get the moves done, get all your pace out as quick as you can. And yeah, it's always really exciting, and it brings everyone into play, and everyone can fight everyone. So yeah, I loved the sprint race. Probably my favorite bit of the night, um, because I guess going into the sprint race, I knew I was going to be at the back, so I was prepared to drive through. Wasn't expecting it with the feature race. So yeah, good fun.
Just,
So yeah, it was a pleasure watching you both trying to get through the field and obviously having that little bit of an issue and then climbing through the field again. But yeah, it's phenomenal drive from yourself, and like Midnight said in the chat, it's a pleasure to have you here, and a pleasure to watch you race. And I'm sure all the drivers as well enjoyed battling out with you. But if Kirk, if you have any more questions, feel free to ask, and then we'll let you
yeah,
go.
yeah, just one more. Um, See, I want to say what Sarah said. Well, it was a pleasure watching you drive tonight. It was a fantastic drive. Obviously, we saw you finish on the podium tonight. What are your goals for the rest of the season? Do you plan on being on the top step of the podium for any of the feature races later on in the season?
Yeah, definitely. I've always, from really young, just been obsessed with competing and winning, and I've always, from that like really young age, been a really sore loser. And kind of when you're young, and people will go like, oh, people look down on it. But now when I do sim racing, when I race in real life, anything that I do in like that, is probably being a sore loser is probably my biggest strength, because it will be nights like tonight where it didn't quite go to plan, where you're then making sure that that doesn't happen the next week, where I'll be like, right, I got the freeze this week, which stopped me from being able to fight for the win. And for me now in my head, it will be, well, next week, even if I do get a freeze, I want to have the pace so that I can still fight for the win. So it's like, yeah, there's a slight unhealthy obsession with a need to win. So yeah, for me, um, I'm gonna be looking to try and get on that top step as much as possible. Long-term goal. I want to fight for that championship. It's gonna be difficult. Swizzy and Callum are incredibly quick drivers, and I think there's not a lot separating us three in terms of that level. I think all of us are really even on pace. We've all three of us have got the right car to go and go the mile. So it's going to be a tough one, but I want to, put it up there with them and challenge for wins in the championship for sure.
Yeah, like you
Thank
say.
you very much for your time tonight,
Yeah, thank you very much for your time
Eva.
as well.
Thank you. Cheers, guys.
Yeah,
Take care, mate.
wanting to win is probably the best motivator of all, because you always want to win. But yeah, thank you very much for joining us. A pleasure to chat to you, pleasure to watch you race, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you. See you next week.
Right, we will bring in Swizzy into the chat. Where is he? There he is. Should be here now. Swizzy, how's that? How are you?
Decent, thanks.
Good, good. How did you find the race? Well, the two races, sorry.
Mm, Surprisingly fun, I guess.
Good, good. I'll hand you over to Kirk. Kirk, if you've got any questions for Swizzy.
Yeah, absolutely. So we saw to start off, we saw in the sprint race, that it took you a few laps to really start making moves on people. Was that just because everyone was so tight together that you were possibly being a bit too cautious, as in to not hit anyone? Do you think if you were more aggressive with the overtakes during the sprint race, that you could have possibly finished higher than where you ended up finishing, Swizzy?
Um, I think the finishing position was always gonna be the same, or maybe just one step higher. But it was the first race of the season, and I know I'm gonna probably miss at least half of the season. So like, there is no point to do any risky moves on first few laps on a sprint race. So I just was watching what's happening and tried to capitalize on the mistakes. I mean, there wasn't that many mistakes from people, but yeah, I was just chilling. And to be honest, like, these lobbies, it's not that easy anymore to, come from the back. So, and at the end of the race, my tires also died. So I was actually quite lucky to even have the P6, because if there was one lap more, I would have finished P7.
Nice. And moving on to the feature race. Obviously we saw you leading for a long part of the for most of the race. We saw you win on towards until the end of the race. Was that just a case of the Lexus eating through the tires, or you possibly got the optimum strategy wrong? Do you think you could improve the race for the future in the upcoming rounds?
To be honest, when I was seeing who's driving and what car people using and seeing the caliber of drivers using the McLaren on this track, I knew that my goal was basically to get on the podium. So uh, obviously you can still do very well with the fresh tires, and on qualifying I was quite happy. It wasn't the perfect lap, but I mean it never is in qualifying, and it was very close between top three, even top four, five, even. But and I was very happy with my pace. Like I was pulling a little bit at first because I knew that the car is definitely capable of doing good laps, but yeah, it's the car, it's the skill issue, it's everything, but it's the tire difference is just massive because like I had to do soft, medium, medium, and Callum was doing soft, medium, soft. So I tried to defend just for fun on the first corner, but I knew that like there's basically even no point. So just a little bit fun, and I'm quite lucky to even finish P2 because Evo had the problems, but I couldn't do much more. I think it was quite the maximum today. No penalties, no mistakes, but the tires just died too fast. So yeah, like I'm quite happy, but of course it's never the same as winning the race. But my target was podium, so can't be mad at that.
Yeah, and talking about the
Certainly
tyres,
cannot.
how are you finding adapting to that Lexus?
Um, it was surprisingly good on this track because I was expecting way worse. Um, the acceleration is nice, but at the end of the straight, I was actually struggling a lot in the sprint race to make the overtakes because Lexus comes out of the last corner much better than the McLaren, but McLaren gets quicker and quicker on the straight. So, but it's a little bit twitchy on mediums. Definitely, like the rear wants to kill you basically on every corner, but luckily I'm using controller, so it's quite easy to handle. But the downfall is definitely tire wear. I tried to save my tires on the second stint, but I realized like there is not that much difference, so I just tried to push. And when I knew that Callum was behind me with the soft tires, I knew it was over. And after that, it was just driving the car home. I had a big enough gap to P3, so. But I think it was the worst track for the car, so we will see what happens in the future. But yeah, sadly I can't take part of the next two races at least. So yeah,
Well, when you're back, I'm sure that you'll be a threat to those the drivers on the podium. But yeah, maximising the points today. It was a pleasure to chat to you, and thank you for your time. And yeah, again, it's been a pleasure to watch you race tonight. Definitely kept us on our toes, and yeah, we will hopefully see you in a couple races time. And in the meantime, look after yourself, and we'll chat to you shortly.
thank you. See you.
No worries, Susie. I look forward to seeing you race again.
Yeah, I mean it's gonna be super season. Like even if I'm not racing, I'm definitely catching up from the streams. It's very promising. It's a shame that I will be missing. I don't even know how many races, but at least the next two, probably even more. But I'm definitely gonna be watching.
Thank you, appreciate that. and hopefully we will see you back at some point. As it's always a pleasure to watch you race, watch you do your thing, and a very talented driver. So hopefully we'll see you back at some point. But we won't keep you any longer. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and like we say, hopefully see you at some point. But well done for tonight, and well done for handling that Lexus's tyre wear issue.
Yeah, cheers.
But we will just go back to the calendar again. So next week we are at the Kyoto track on the 27th. So make sure keep getting your practice in wherever you can, and making sure that you're ready for next Wednesday. Obviously, there won't be any lobby qualifying next week, so it will we'll let you know what lobbies everyone is in prior to the race. But thank you everyone for your patience tonight. It's been a good first race. Some stuff to kind of iron out, but apart from that, it was good. And like I say, thank you for everyone's time. We'll go over to the highlights, but it's been a pleasure to watch everyone race, and make sure to subscribe to the Nighthawk Racing YouTube channel, where Lobby 2 commentary will be posted hopefully tonight or tomorrow. And I'm excited to go and watch Lobby 2. We've had a sneak kind of, not spoiler by Koulios, but saying that it's interesting, so excited to go and watch that. But I hope the race went well, and we'll go and watch it shortly. But in the meantime, enjoy the highlights of the sprint race, and we will see you next time. Goodbye.